Once you do start healing and start, regulating yourself and start toning that ventral vagal part of the vagus nerve, you have to continue. You don't just do this. We're so used to kind of fixing, when things have gone wrong and it's really, really bad and, I'm so stressed and overwhelmed. Now I'm going to go and do some self-regulation. But actually it's in the moments of calm that you also have to practice, those habits of self-regulating, doing the breath work, taking time to kind of just notice where you are in the room, bring yourself back into the prefrontal part of your brain in that present moment.
Hi, everyone. This is Riley, one of the producers of Prey vs. Predator, and I wanted to hop back on to remind you to consider supporting us on Patreon. You can choose between a one-time gift or regular donations for as little as $3 a month. All donations go towards production costs so we can continue this project for years to come. We love our community and wanted to say a big thank you to all our listeners and supporters. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome back, everybody, to Prey vs. Predator. So we have a little bonus episode to throw at you right now. What we're going to do is we're going to invite Carla Shohet, who has just been with us now for a little bit of time. Her incredible insight has been so inspiring to us personally that we would just like to invite her into our own healing journeys a little bit, or perhaps just looking for some insight or what she thinks about maybe going on with us. So I guess we're making ourselves a little bit vulnerable, but why not? We're here. Let's do some good work. So this, you need to know, this is an unscripted episode. So this will be, so we don't really know what's going to happen. We're just going to open our mouths and see what comes out. But we're going to start with Amber. Amber, is there anything that you would like to say to Carla?
You know what? I really, this feels very vulnerable actually right now. It does. It feels very vulnerable. I've already spoken, I think, in a lot of our previous episodes about some of my history, some of the questions that I've asked. I think the stuff that is speaking to me is those trauma responses that I still have, which I am very interested in the somatic and the body. And I am a very feely person. Like I've said, even with my predator, my parent, who would always tell me I'm too sensitive. So I guess, I don't know how to heal from all those things, or is it possible? Those are the things I have. Even when I say I don't know, I do know. Those are the things that are mostly on my head, is healing and not having those kind of quick traumatic responses that I do have. How would you work with someone like that? Someone like me?
The first thing that I would like to say is that to be vulnerable takes a huge amount of courage. It's a strength, being vulnerable. And this is something that not everybody understands or knows. So what I tell all my clients before they become clients, and what I tell all my audience through social media, is that it takes a huge amount of courage to do this inner work. And it requires courage because not everyone, in fact, most people, I would say, that are prepared to dig deep and go close to the pain. So if you've been doing this journey for a while, congratulations. You're very courageous. And thank you for being vulnerable here to share your experiences with other people so that other people can heal too, because we learn so much through stories. We learn about ourselves through other people's stories. So thank you very much for doing that. It does take a huge, I don't know, personally, having been through this kind of trauma myself, it can make you very quickly slip into fear and hiding, which are nervous system responses, trauma responses, as you rightly said. So, it takes healing to even be able to get to the point where you have a podcast or you become visible on social media to be able to share your story with other people. So that already highlights the level of healing you've had, because your natural trauma response was to probably not be visible and not share your story. Like a lot of, people that have had this kind of trauma. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's a little different for me because I do have a performance background. So a lot of my healing started with taking a lot of performance classes where you do have to do a lot of substitution, or you do have to tap into your anger, your fear, tears. So in some way, it was very therapeutic for me to go into those things and be able to just cry. And I think in a previous thing, I talked about voice work that was really, really meaningful to me, which was somatic. But it's funny, when I would go into the somatic work, I think I actually had my first panic attack was going into and doing that voice work. So I actually went into, because I also went into coaching and teaching in schools. I was quite young. So I had a lot of trauma around that. It's all convoluted, but even when you were talking about music and how you couldn't sing, it stuck with me because I grew up singing and it's healing for me. But I was actually a music teacher and I hated it. It was too much noise, too much sound for me. So I had, anyways, doing this voice work, so sometimes when I would go into I'd become super emotional and almost I felt like I was too much for them, Yeah.
What's really interesting about what you just shared here is that you felt safe leaning into those difficult emotions that society tells us all the time, that they're not okay to express anger, that it's not okay to cry. We are too much when we do that. And you did that by playing a part. It felt safer to do that in a role rather than to be doing. When I talk about visibility, what I'm talking about is, become invisible, the true you become invisible. It's a very, very different position. You're absolutely right. Performance and music is a very good somatic release for stress, for trauma. Absolutely. But it's interesting that there was the performance aspect of it that allowed you to feel safe enough to be able to let those emotions out, which is still good. It doesn't matter. Tears contain stress hormones. We want them out, not in.
Yeah.
And you said something else that I wanted to pick up on. The music became too much. As I think I've touched upon, but I want to explain to you why that became so, is because trauma causes damage to the inner ear, the middle ear. And whereas normal, healthy eardrum is taut and it drowns out background noise and it focuses in on human voices for recognition. When we have trauma and we're hypervigilant, the inner drum, the eardrum becomes flexible and it perceives sounds completely differently. So it raises the volume on background sounds and reduces the human voices. And that's because, working with the hypervigilant brain, it needs to listen to any cues of dangers that are going on behind you. So literally your perception of sound changes. And that's why we become, jumpy, or, we can't listen to, we can't be in loud places where there's too much going on. It's very, very triggering because it feels like, danger, danger, danger to your nervous system. But that can be healed as you heal, and you tone intentionally your social engagement network in the vagus nerve and that ventral vagal part of the, the one that's kind of from the back of the brainstem right to your chest. And as you tone, it's like a muscle, this is the part of the nervous system we're not born with, and it has to be taught to us, usually by a main caregiver. But, if we had emotionally unavailable parents or abusive parents, for whatever reason, there was no one there to co-regulate with us in moments of, stressful situations. We didn't learn how to regulate ourselves, and therefore we didn't have a good tone to our vagus nerve. That eventually affects, your hearing, your social engagement network, which is all up in the head. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think regulation is something that I don't think my family knows how to do. And it's something that I remember, even like I've been friends with certain people for years, PJ, and I would notice there were things that you would say to yourself to calm yourself down that I never even considered, because we've been friends since we were teenagers. Yeah. But so there were things that I never even considered that you do, because the only thing I saw as regulation is actually to berate myself. That was regulating, to bring myself down. So if I was feeling heightened or whatever, I would bring myself down by saying negative things to myself. That was a way of regulating. And I've learned not to do that. It's interesting because the last couple of years, I'm like, I like myself, but it's taken that many years to figure out that, there's other ways of doing that, of bringing yourself down, or not even bringing yourself down, but it's just finding a calm.
And it is, the nervous system is a hierarchy, right? You can never go from feeling really nice and calm to feeling shut down. You always have to pass through the nervous system via the sympathetic part of the nervous system, mobilizing energy, feeling a bit activated. And then when it gets too much, you shut down and your body rests. You highlight exactly what I said earlier, which, this part of the nervous system, that ventral vagal part of the polyvagal theory that we have spoken briefly about, is that space where we feel safe, connected, grounded, where we can be safe being exactly who we are. And then we can come from, a place of compassion for ourselves and other people, curiosity rather than judgment, playfulness, creativity. We're in flow, all those wonderful, we can feel joy, and we can feel, full stop. We can actually feel, rather than feel nothing and feel numb, which is a shut down nervous system response. But when you didn't have that role modeling, because your parents didn't know how to do that, they didn't know how to self-regulate, they didn't know how to go from stress to less stress to calm, how could you have learned? It's a muscle that's never been used. Once you do start healing and start, regulating yourself and start toning that ventral vagal part of the vagus nerve, you have to continue. You don't just do this. We're so used to kind of fixing, when things have gone wrong and it's really, really bad, and I'm so stressed and overwhelmed. Now I'm going to go and do some self-regulation. But actually, it's in the moments of calm that you also have to practice, those habits of self-regulating, doing the breath work, taking time to kind of just notice where you are in the room, bring yourself back into the prefrontal part of your brain in that present moment intentionally, so that you can give your brain and your nervous system more and more experiences of that, and you can stay in that ventral vagal part of the vagus nerve longer and longer, which is where we want, that's where we want to all be, right? Where we should all be. But it's a learning process. It's a practicing process as well.
Yeah, no, that speaks to me. So thank you.
Thanks,
I appreciate
Carla.
it. Yeah, love, this is great.
Yeah. PJ, do you have any questions for Carla? Anything that you would like to ask her?
Of course.
Yeah. Of course you do.
It's Carla. And if I can have this 10-minute window, that's fantastic. One of the questions I have for you is for my own self, but also for the many people that I work with, is one of the things I noticed that's really difficult, because this is something that is not understood commonly. It's not in people's, the word gaslighting is the word of the year. So certainly there's movement toward it becoming common, but we're so far from it. I find that when I am trying to explain, or I see when clients are trying to explain this type of pain to me, or I'm trying to explain it to somebody else, because there's so many times that I have explained it or they have explained it and bumped up against people not understanding it, thinking it's something else, saying things like, well, it sounds like you needed better boundaries, or it sounds like, you needed to pray harder, or you needed to, whatever it is, becomes a desperation, or there becomes an escalation of like a panicky part to the tone and the quality of voice, so that they sound almost hysterical. And I think I sound almost hysterical at times. And I think people start tuning out. I'll give you this example of somebody that I have worked with many years ago, but this individual was in a court situation. And every time they were trying to talk to, let's say, parenting coaches or their own lawyer, or they were put in front of a judge, because they would start to use this tone, they would be easily dismissed as sort of powerless. So I just kind of wanted to touch base and see, what are your thoughts around, A, what is that in the body? And then B, do you have thoughts around how to stay calm, or how to present a in a way that you're not dismissed?
It's so difficult what you are explaining. It's probably one of the most painful things as you are trying to be believed.
Yeah.
You're not the crazy one, because you sometimes doubt it yourself because you've been through that abuse that's made you question your sense of your reality and your memory and your understanding. And, so you have moments of kind of clarity, but clarity is a true self trait. And when we are in past trauma responses, we have very little clarity and we struggle to come across in self-leadership. And so it's a bit of a conundrum, right? Because it's the damage that the predator has caused is now on display for everyone to see. And it's just so much, the predator is the strong, clever one.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to fight your cause and get people to believe you. And it's really, really difficult to stay calm when you are triggered. Unless you have the tools to know how to downregulate your nervous system, to know what's even happening to you in that moment. This is such a common thing that you're talking about that happens all the time because the system is broken. There is a massive misconception of the word gaslighting, of the word narcissistic abuse or narcissism or narcissist. There is a huge misunderstanding of the fact that there is actually trauma, that it is actually abuse. And, lawyers, unless these people are in these professions are trauma informed, there are very, very few. They're growing, but there are few. They won't understand. It's so much easier to be judgmental because they've got their own wounds and they just would rather look at you and go, right, she's crazy. Next. Because they don't have the information and the understanding. And you don't either to be able to, really. I mean, I've had clients who have been going through this very process, lots of them. And they've been so desperate that they've gone into these meetings showing people my reels.
Right.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so sad that we have to do that, but that's what we need to do sometimes to advocate because people won't believe us. And because we do lack the lexicon and the nervous system ability to stay calm in those moments, because you are very, very triggered. You're going through a very stressful, traumatic event in your life in that moment. And to not be believed on top of that and to be perceived as if you're the crazy one, that's trauma itself. And I think that, the only thing that we can hope for is more and more education. I mean, literally yesterday or this morning even, I had a PhD psychologist commenting on one of my reels that I posted yesterday, which was, what is not intergenerational trauma about? Didn't say anything about narcissism. I think it said something like, healing myself from, father and mother wounds and, narcissistic abuse and trauma, and then passing it on by helping others to do the same thing, cycle breaking mums or whatever. And the comment was, it was just like crazy to me because, the old version of me understands where it's coming from. But it was just so judgmental. It was just like something to the effect of, just because, this is basically quackery kind of armchair diagnosis. There was no diagnosis in it. And it was so invalidating, not of me and my message, but of all the people that are commenting saying thank you, and they felt understood and believed and heard, and it's almost like society. It's not almost, it is like society. We vote people into power that are narcissists, that are predators. That's what we do. And there are lots of those kind of people in high-powered professions and positions in society, including in the mental health world, which pains me. Now, I'm hoping this particular case was just a person that wasn't trauma-informed and didn't understand and maybe got triggered by something that they saw in that reel. But basically the message was, not everyone you meet is a narcissist. Well, that wasn't the message, but this is the understanding because it's a word that's now being overused. Oh, your boyfriend was horrible to you. Oh, he's a narcissist. Oh, you disagree with me. You're gaslighting me.
Right.
Your chips broke. Oh yeah, that's a trauma. It's, and it's, I think these things happen in cycles. But I do think that this language, this misuse of these words or these terms actually does help us long term because it propels people like you and I to go out there to create these podcasts, to create reels, to create education for the masses, not just for people who can afford therapy or who are interested like me and you and are passionate about this because we've been through it. We are literally giving language to the people that are in these situations right now, not knowing what the hell has happened to them, what is happening, what's wrong with them. There is nothing wrong with them. They just don't know that.
Totally. Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Jill, it's your turn.
So I have a question. I am a busy beaver. I do many things and okay, so my body likes a fair amount of stress. Like I function well under stress. When that stress is taken away and I start to relax, I have nightmares. And I have particular nightmares around about 10 years ago. I was laid off from a job that I loved and it was unfair and it was wrong and it sucked. And I feel like I've done the grief work. Like I feel like I've done what I need to do. But gee, I sure would like those nightmares to stop. And then, so sometimes I wonder, do I keep myself busy so I don't have those nightmares? Do I keep myself stressed so I don't have them? Or does my body just like stress? I don't know. I would love your feedback.
What was coming up for me when I was listening to you telling me this about this is very common, by the way, the recurring nightmares that don't go away. And it does speak of stuck trauma. And, regardless of how much work we do, there are always new layers and deeper healing that we can go to. And it made me think of when people go on holiday and they often get sick.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like, right, it's the nervous system, right? Your version of normal is busyness, is sympathetic fight flight, okay? That's not to say, it's possible that someone's a high energy person and likes to and thrives on that fight flight energy. We do need that. If we're feeling safe in our body and safe to be us, that fight flight sympathetic energy, we do need it for focus and determination and strength and really getting things done, right? So it's not bad. Is when our version of normal is that survival mode, because it is a survival mechanism. And then the minute you go to sleep, you go into dorsal, which is your body's relaxing. And that's not your version of normal. That's not safe. Remember, the brain likes familiarity. So the minute when your version of safe is go, 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 when you stop, that's the brain responds to that as this is not safe. Okay, so it brings up the trauma. It reminds you of like, see, look, this is not safe. You must go. Keep going. Don't sleep. Don't relax.
That's right.
Busyness, being a busy bee, or busy beaver, you described it as.
I'm Canadian.
It's a protector part.
Yeah.
It keeps you busy so you don't have to focus on maybe that particular trauma that hasn't fully healed. It was something that I would encourage you to lean into and focus on and find that time. And it's uncomfortable because the minute you stop, the body doesn't want you to stop and you just, you can't relax. You get nervous. If I'm now nervous and stressed, I can't focus on relaxing and I can't focus on the pain that might come up if I do nothing. So if I keep just doing, then it's the distractive part. It's there with loving intention for you, trying to keep you away from the pain of that trauma that's still somewhat stuck, even if you have done grief work. And, maybe you need something else. Maybe you need to try brain spotting.
Maybe I do. Yeah. Maybe I do, Carla. Thank you. Actually, that's a great idea.
I feel like we all need to try that.
Yeah, I think so. We should all.
And it may not actually be that obvious. It may not be exactly to do with losing that job unfairly if you've done the work of that. But your brain might be remembering something else deeper or older, and it keeps bringing them up because it just, when the brain will keep putting in front of us what it needs us to deal with, and it will keep doing it and doing it. We go back to that conversation that we had previously about, a headache ignored becomes a migraine and then becomes a brain cancer. I mean, very drastic here, but it's if you keep ignoring and if you keep not leaning into and trying, gently kind of be curious about, what is this dream that keeps coming, this nightmare that keeps waking me, this thing, what is it about? and you just think, oh, it's because I'm not busy, and so I'll just be busy then.
Mm-hmm.
It will just keep coming. It will keep representing to you until you acknowledge it, you sit with it, you lean into it, you feel it,
Mm-hmm.
which is the bit that the thing is, it's again, it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing, because actually the brain, it prefers amnesia and anesthesia to feeling. It wants to keep you away from pain. So it's almost like you have to violate yourself to go there sometimes. A natural thing is not to go and lean into pain. Our natural response is to want to kind of be done with it and be over with it. I've done the work. I've done the grief work. It should be fixed now.
I've checked all the boxes. I'm good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frustrating and it's irritating and it's not nice, but clearly that is something that's coming up for a reason. It wants to be seen.
My body
It wants to be dealt with.
It's still alive, but it's so vulnerable, right?
Ugh, and annoying and all that.
Healing exhaustion.
That's right, exactly.
Well, because you have to face, I think when the vulnerability comes up, you have to face the very thing that you're scared of the most. Like I often say to my clients, you will probably fear death less than whatever this is. Like if given a choice between death and this, it'd be like, okay, I picked death.
Mm-hmm.
Like sort of facetiously, but semi-seriously, because it's like death, I can handle that. But facing this, finding out that what I fear is true.
Mm-hmm.
You're making kind of saying that in a humorous way, but if we look at it from a serious point of view, suicidality, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it leads people to taking their lives rather than dealing with their inner core wounds.
It's so vulnerable because if that's true, if what I'm scared of is true, I don't think I can bear knowing that. And yet there's a Buddhist concept that it's like if you the harder you bump up against it, the bigger the dragon becomes, so to speak.
Yes.
And actually when you make friends and connect and realize that is the one that's sent to guide you and direct you. And when you walk with that dragon, it becomes very small and you can connect to it. So I'm probably butchering the Buddhist concept. So I apologize.
I'm going to Google it after.
I apologize. And please, educate
Makes complete
me.
sense to me and actually speaks very similarly to what we do in parts work with, from an internal family systems, that separation of, the parts of you, the anger, the frustration, the anxiety, the panic attacks, the pain, the busyness, the people pleasing, the, aggressive responses, those parts of us that become blended with us over time and become who we are. When we separate those parts and we understand that they are autonomic nervous system coping mechanisms, there are parts of us there with loving intention, albeit destructive impact, and we separate the timelines. Okay, that's not who I am. It's a part of me. A part of me is angry. A part of me is anxious, and we lean into ask to the parts, why are you here? How do you see me? This is the process that we do in internal family systems. We get to know our parts. And there are millions of them. So it's a really actual fun process as well. It's quite surprising as well. I think it was Jill that in one of the other episodes is, you were saying, just be open to the unexpected ways that you can heal because it never really happens the way you expect. It's so true because the body wants to heal and it knows how to heal. We think that we are in charge of it, but the body is. We just have to give it the opportunity, the time, the safe space to be able to do that. But actually, and with one of the modalities, brain spotting, I was explaining in one of the other episodes is, you might start in a brain spotting session with me telling me about what you want to work on, this an inability to relax. And then when I do relax, I have these nightmares. What's that about? And it starts like this, but actually the body takes you onto a very scenic route on how to heal that particular thing that you think is the trauma, but actually it's completely connected to something else of when you were 3 years old or 15 and takes you to when you're 28. And
Wow.
it does, it's this whole kind of seemingly disconnected journey, but not disconnected.
And your mind has linked all those things and to create a narrative.
Right.
Exactly.
And a vulnerability that becomes scary. That's so amazing.
Oh, thank you, Carla.
Thank
this was
you.
so good.
And everybody, please check Carla out on all the socials, on Instagram, on Facebook, TikTok. Are you on YouTube too as well? No.
I'm not on TikTok or YouTube.
Oh,
yet.
I
Just
thought you were on
Facebook and
TikTok.
Instagram. A lot of people say, I found you on TikTok. And I'm like, well, I'm glad.
I think it's the reels. It's the
Someone
reels.
thinks,
Yeah.
all the social media platforms. And no, just Facebook and Instagram for now.
There you go.
There will be a podcast very soon. And there is a community that you can come to, Wild Mother, on Facebook that you can join if you're a mum. And what else? And then carlashohet.com, my website, which is being built at the moment. So
That's
it's very, very simple. Just 2 buttons. Chat with me or subscribe for free resources. That's it.
Brilliant.
Perfect.
Well, and thank you. So we hope this won't be the last time you are with us.
Yes.
We'd love to
I would
have you
love to
back
come
at
back.
another time. And all the best to you as you continue this journey. It's such brilliant work. We're so thankful you're part of our community.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Carla.
And it's a real honor to be part of your community and to be able to be here sharing my knowledge with your audience as well. I really cannot thank you enough. Keep the good work yourselves. You're doing an amazing job to educate everyone that doesn't know about this stuff. It's so, so important. It's the beginning of their healing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carla.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We wanted to say a big thank you to Carla for joining us and blowing our minds with her knowledge and compassion when talking about trauma and emotional abuse. Make sure you go check out her podcast, Time to Unlearn, where she helps you heal from your past, rediscover your true identity, and realize your full potential in your life. You can find us at Prey vs. Predator on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and of course on all major podcast platforms. We do our best to engage with our full online community, so if you have questions or comments about our show, please reach out to us. We would love to hear from you.